Welcome in this next section in the Learning Microsoft Azure course from Pact Publishing, in which I'm going to talk about monitoring and diagnostics. In this section, I want to cover a couple of different things. First one is talking about Azure built-in monitoring features, followed by deploying Azure Operations Management Suite, which is the ultimate monitoring tool we have available in Azure today. And then the third section is about deploying Azure Application Insight, which mainly gives you really deep, detailed information about your Azure applications. So let me start with the first topic in this section here. It's about Azure built-in monitoring. Azure built-in monitoring is available for about any resource. So I would like to start with that one, then also showing you what it takes to configure alert notifications and how you can customize your built-in monitoring. You already know quite a lot about Azure resources. I mean, we've been using them since the beginning of this course. And once you start managing your Azure environment, one of the things you really need is using decent monitoring. So you can start with using the built-in monitoring. Most Azure resources, virtual machines, storage, web apps, databases provide you built-in monitoring capabilities. Monitoring is available from the Azure portal and from REST APIs if you want to build and integrate with your own custom developed environment. For some resources, diagnostics need to be activated explicitly. So the feature is there, but it needs to be activated. And the monitoring itself is based on metrics, alert rules, diagnostic settings, and an overall network diagram. Besides that, on specific resource, we also have Azure Service Health, which provides you a geographical and tabular overview on what's happening with the Azure environment. So it's not specifically about your custom deployed Azure resources, but about the Azure platform as such. It's giving you detailed highlighted information per Azure region. So it could be that Central US Azure region is down or giving issues, but everything else in all the other global worldwide data centers is still up and running. By selecting your region, it will give you detailed information about what's happening on the platform level up to a history of about 1 month. On top of that, it also integrates with Azure Analytics, giving you real detailed information, like you can see in the screenshot that about 4 days before I created this course, there was some issue with Azure Resource Manager in a given Azure region. Another monitoring feature we have available is boot diagnostics. Now, boot diagnostics is mainly interesting for virtual machines during the boot phase. Now, since you don't have access to the physical hypervisor layer and your virtual machine wouldn't start for whatever reason, it's really hard to troubleshoot. So with the integration of boot diagnostics, Microsoft Azure actually gives you a troubleshooting tool, allows you to provide a screenshot, exporting diagnostics logging to an Azure storage account, and reusing this information when logging an incident case at the Azure support team. Now, monitoring from the portal is interesting, but IT admins are not always connecting to the portal 24/7. So to get information about what's going on with your Azure resources, it might be interesting to know that you can configure custom alert notifications. Alert notifications can be configured per subscription, per resource group, all the way down to a resource level. And it's pretty easy to configure. It's based on metric alerts, providing you notification by email, which by default goes to the Azure subscription admins and co-owners, but it also allows you to enter external additional email addresses. Besides sending notifications through email, it also supports webhooks, allowing you to forward notification alert messages to other monitoring solutions. And last activity you can configure is not just sending you the alert, but also configuring certain actions to be taken out of integrating with Azure Automation and Azure Runbooks. So an easy example, as I showed you in the screenshot, is creating an alert whenever the CPU goes above 5% usage, and then sending an alert every 5 minutes, for example. Now, built-in monitoring, it's there. We talked about it already. Now, depending on the resource, depending on the resource group, depending on the information you want to get out of it, it allows you to customize the built-in monitoring. So you can modify the default charts that are visible in the portal, or integrating with diagnostic settings and really customizing the metrics that you want to get out of it. And then integrating with Azure Analytics, for maybe later on integrating with Operations Management Suite and pulling down detailed reports about what's going on with your environment. So with that, I'm going to take it over to another demo and quickly showing you a couple of aspects about Azure built-in monitoring. So when I'm logging on to my portal and taking one of those virtual machines that I deployed in a previous demo, from the overview in the blade, it basically shows me CPU percentage usage, or disk read and write information. And if I go down a little bit, it will also show me network traffic information going in, going out to the specific virtual machine. So this is really built-in monitoring. Out of the edit option that I have available here, I can make a little bit customized changes. So for example, don't give me the past hour, but the full day information, or any other time range if you want. And then changing the chart type to a bar. And I'm not interested in CPU here, but I'm interested in another setting. And then saving it, and this graphical view is completely different than before. Now this was only the starter. If I go back to my virtual machine settings, I have these monitoring options available here and selecting a lot of different metrics. So what it does here is connecting to my resource group, selecting my resource, my two VMs that are being deployed before, allowing me to flag the specific metrics that I want information for. Disk read write information, network input, all in the same graphical interface. I also talked about creating alert rules. So it starts from your overall filtering. Let me add another metric alert here. So I'm going to take an easy one, CPU not used. So the metric is based on a criteria for this specific resource group and this specific resource. If my CPU condition less than or greater than 90% during a period of 5 minutes, then email the Azure subscription owners. So it will create an alert, and if I'm now spiking my CPU up to 90%, then out of my email they will receive an alert notification. Although there was an error message that it didn't work, you can see here that the alert was created successfully, so I can ignore the alert. Another interesting one out of the built-in monitoring is a diagram view, which looks like this. What it shows me here is my Active Directory virtual machine, which is linked to an operating system disk and a data disk, and underneath there's a networks. And by selecting one of the options here, I can basically see the integration relation between all the different components. And from here, I could select my operating system and get some parameter view out of it. The same for my network, or even my virtual machine settings again. So pretty easy to use built-in Azure monitoring. Which is the end of this video. and I'm inviting you again to follow me to the next one, talking about Azure Operations Insight, or the newer name, Azure Operations Management Suite.